Welcome to my ramblings. This episode, a little bit more on specifications and underlying reasons for them, and so on and so forth. Uh, like I said in an earlier video, um, when I was a cooperative education student, I'm working for the DoD, the Department of the Navy, actually, to be more specific. Um, you know, there were always people that just thought the specifications were too unwieldy. Um, and, and it was just kind of like, wait a minute. I look back, did these guys think that I could do something about that? Did they want me to do something about it? Did they think, as a construction contract administrator, I could alter all the specifications in the drawings? There's a signed contract here, a legal obligation between the Department of the Navy and the construction contractor. I can't go modifying and altering stuff. Besides, I would, if I did that, then we've changed the contract, and now parts of it would have to be renegotiated. But beyond that, I was a cooperative education student. I wouldn't know what I was doing if I tried to start altering and modifying specifications for contracts that were already written. Later on in my career, I would be editing these specifications to meet the project requirements. So you sort of have a template that you follow. Um, um, but what when you do get to the point where you're working on a project and you're writing the specifications, if you go through it, they tell you quite clearly, if you think yours are improvements that can be made to these specifications, then send this form with your suggestions or whatever for improvement, what have you. And you have to send it to NAFAC headquarters. And then I guess they have a committee that looks at it, and if consensus is to change it, then that's what they do, and then it gets propagated down, through all the various commands that do work under the auspices of the Naval Facilities Engineering Command. And sometimes you see regional specifications. Things are done differently, engineering wise, architecturally wise, building code wise, in various parts of the country. It's just the way it is. And so you'll see that regional specifications for various things. Plus, every base doesn't have the exact same configuration of primary distribution. Some bases use overhead lines, and so their specifications reflect that. I guess over time, various bases have developed, I guess it was derived based on requirements for reliability and stuff, different ways of implementing the primary distribution system. And so you'll see regional specifications that reflect those differences. Some regions, some areas, might have had problems in a particular area with certain types of equipment. So you'll see far more detailed details, standard details for different types of equipment. And that's kind of like the NEC. It grows and progresses to meet issues and stuff that come up with electrical installations. And you'll see regional specs reflecting the issues and problems they've encountered in getting what they need. And so, um, you just have to familiarize yourself when you're doing that. One of the things that was happening is when in Public Works San Diego is um, they hired a boss jock contractor, and I think they came up with, instead of contractors competing for a specific job, they compete to work on a set of projects, and then so they'll have three contractors awarded for that, and then I guess each one of those then selects a bit. And so they came up with a more streamlined set of specifications. But the whole overall NAFEC specifications, instead of being in place for each specific project, it was built into the contracts that govern, the selection process to be, one of those boss jock contractors. I don't really understand the Bostock process. I know it's evolved. It may everything in DoD may be Bostock now. I don't know, but so the limited perspective that we had is that that's kind of what they were doing. Um, and they still had other projects, if I understand it correctly, that were independently put out for bid, and so they had the full specifications. And I don't know if this started in Public Works San Diego. I don't recall. You know, um, but at least maybe it was emphasized at Lantiv is that I think at one point the ratings of equipment were inside the specifications. But I think we did this at PwC San Diego, but I know full well that we did it at Lantiv. That's where we actually put the ratings and the equipment and stuff on the drawings, and we put a lot of notes on the drawings and stuff. And so, in a sense, um, there was an evolution of, less wieldy specs and stuff, but you still needed the core essence of the specs so the government personnel would know, well, what items of the project needed government inspection, what the submittals were, all the standards that equipment had to comply to. And what I guess most people miss the boat on is that so that the contractor knows what to bid. You know, he needs to know what you're asking of him. If you just have a big old blank sheet of paper, what does the contractor submit a bid on? If the contractor doesn't know that the government requires that he submit submittals that show that this is a manufacturer's information on this piece of equipment that I'm submitting. These are the particular standards that it needs to meet. These are the tests that it needs to have been run through. These are the tests that are going to be done in the field. These are the tests that need to be done in the factory. What does a contractor bid on if he doesn't have that information? And so we had one guy at Corpus Christi. He wanted to put all the specifications on the drawings. 500 sheets of electrical specifications, and he wanted to put them on the drawings. I tried to go to the guy and say, "Hey, look, you know, there's these specifications aren't just for the contractor's convenience. There's a lot of stuff in there that people administering these contracts are going to need to know. The important thing is when you're designing a system or developing a project, you put those things in there as well." I was trying to say, there's some stuff that we could transfer over there, but the fact that specifications get lost, you're asking to take 500 sheets of electrical specifications and 20 drawings and turn it into, what, 300 drawings. It kind of didn't make sense to me. So I was trying to talk to this guy about it. I kind of got the sense that though the people he had to deal with didn't want to hear anything back. They just wanted somebody to do it. And so he was there sort of as like a gateway. He just wouldn't. He just would not hear anything I had to say. He wouldn't even let me. This guy's not even my supervisor. And the proper procedure for doing that anyway is to route it through NAVFAC. These aren't my specifications. These are NAVFAC specifications. This is the way NAVFAC says to do it. If he wants to come in and change them, he should be going to NAVFAC. But he wouldn't hear of it. And I'm thinking, Jesus. Part of the problem is part of the other issue that was nagging at me is that when I was a co-op education student, they don't like a lot of times it wasn't the construction contractor doesn't like them, or they don't like them, some nebulous they, right? I just understood it that a lot of people they didn't like them. And I guess I just associated that with a construction contractor. And this guy was trying to say they want the specifications on who's this nebulous they is. Is this coming from a contractor? You know, is they some contractors? Is they a commander in another command? Is they NAVFAC? You know, NAVFAC. These are NAVFAC specifications. I, I'm an employee of NAVFAC. Well, sort of. NAVFAC might be a strictly military organization, and then all the civilians might actually be under the PW, the Public Works Command. I don't know. Really never. That's, but that's not really that important. Just like there's an admiral, no matter how high up you chase, but it's kind of irrelevant. I never interact with an admiral. All the admiral stuff comes down to the captains and commanders, and then eventually it makes its way to my supervisors, which are usually a GS or GM13, and then it makes its way to me. Only in Corpus Christi did I ever have a direct supervisor that was a military officer, and in Great Lakes. But so I'll make it, you know, I need to call the inspector general about this, the tremendous waste of paper. You know, specifications are written on 8.5 by 11, and drawings are written on D. I'm trying to, I'm trying to tell this guy, there's some stuff that we could transfer over, but to ask me to put 500 sheets into drawings, I couldn't do it. So